Most projects I build are complicated. Solid wood, epoxy, custom joinery. The kind of builds that look great but take weeks to finish. This one is different. It's melamine. Simple, fast and practical. A corner desk built from the same design language as the rest of the living room furniture I made earlier. Oak colored top, white cabinets and clean lines. We've been using temporary desks in this corner for almost 3 years. 2 mismatched tables, cables everywhere, the kind of setup that works until it doesn't. So I decided to finally build something real, a proper workspace that fits the room. It matches the rest of the furniture and finally replaces the temporary desks. If you've watched my previous melamine videos, you'll see that these cabinets are built just like the rest of the melamine furniture I've made. The work is repetitive, but the main advantage of that is that it creates a good habit and it helps you prevent mistakes. The main issue with melamine is the fact that if you screw things up, you need to order new panels. And the big issue with that is the fact that you sometimes have to wait weeks for them to be cut and bended. By having these habits, this is what you're basically preventing. Now, each box sits on a small toe kick. It's just a 10 cm strip recessed behind the front edge, but it completely changes the way the piece feels. It lifts the cabinet visually, makes it easier to stand close, and protects the edges from every mop that's ever existed. Now, I drill with a 5mm bit and a countersink color. You can find this setup at most box stores. It's just deep enough for the Euro screw head to sit flush. Just a piece of warning when working with Euro screws. If you tighten them too hard, they burst the surface. If you tighten them too little, the joint gaps show forever. I usually tighten them until the head sits just flush. To keep things consistent, I use 2 speed squares. One is set at 5 cm and another at 9mm. The first one marks how deep the screw goes into the cabinet side, and the second centers the hole on the edge of the panel I'm screwing into. This small setup saves me a ton of measuring and makes the whole process almost automatic. For the toe kick, I reset my square to 27mm because it needs to sit recessed. And to make my life easier, I usually double up a scrap piece of melamine as a quick spacer. I align it with the front edge and it gives me the perfect 18mm recess every time. It's one of those tiny shop habits that just keeps the build flowing. The process is simple. Screw in the sides and the top first, then install the toe kick panels. One on the front, recessed, and another in the back, flush. That back strip might not look like much, and most people don't even add it, but it adds rigidity and makes installing the bottom panel way easier. You just drop the bottom panel in, line it up on the front and back edges, and you go nuts with the screws. As you can see, I left the back open because it gives me the space to reach behind and drive the screws for the faces of the drawers later. It's much easier than fighting through a narrow opening. For these cabinets, I should have waited even more, and you'll see why a bit later in the video. I'll nail in the HDF back only after the drawers are in. Speaking of drawers, I used 10mm melamine bottoms instead of the usual 18. It keeps them light, but still solid. In the past, I used to just screw the bottoms directly to the sides, but now I like to cut a groove into the drawer sides 10mm up from the edge. I do this just because it makes the drawer look a little bit better, and it doesn't add too much extra work. If you're just starting and don't have a table saw, it's not a big deal. Just screw some screws into that bottom and call it good. It has the same rigidity and the drawer looks almost the same. Now, dado stacks are restricted here, so I have to make several passes with a regular blade until the bottom fits snugly. It's slow, but it keeps things safe and precise. When you build 6 drawers like this, repetition becomes rhythm. Cut, groove, assemble, check for square, and then repeat. Time to put up these drawers, and for some reason this is always something I'm dreading. I don't know why, but I always hate doing drawers. So I think I'm just gonna do it, and I'm gonna start with the big ones at the bottom and go from there. Maybe I'll find my inner peace and finally do them. Let's start. Installing the soft close runners is where precision really matters. I mount the main rail on the cabinet bottom, measure the distance to the lower edge of the drawer front of 10mm, subtract half and set that on the speed square. That mark goes on every drawer side before screwing in the runner. This way, I don't need a tape measure, I don't need to do any math, and I just do the same movement 6 times. It's quick, repeatable, and it works. Before adding the faces, I slide each box in to test the feel. Soft close drawers are only satisfying when they glide evenly. With the ones I'm using, and most of them actually, you need a 14mm gap between the drawer side and the cabinet. The runners are about 12mm, but those extra 2 will create enough of a gap so they don't stick and they run smoothly. Next come the faces. I use a spacer underneath to set up the gap. I usually have a piece of scrap I cut to the needed height, which is about 120mm. I clamped the front in place and drive the screws from the inside of the drawer, except for the top one. With this setup, there wasn't enough room to reach behind it once the cabinet was assembled, so I clamped that one directly to the drawer on the workbench and drove the screws from the front. It's not the usual way, but it's clean, and once the faces line up, nobody can tell how they were attached. One by one, the gaps line up and the cabinets finally start looking like something finished. With both drawers units ready, it was time to bring everything inside. I did this because I didn't want to carry the whole unit in. It's just a recipe for disaster, and usually you don't have perfectly flat floors and walls. Installing everything on site sometimes makes things a lot easier. The left cabinet went in first. I leveled the toe kick, checked the wall alignment, and then I installed the extra panel to support the top. This is where I realized it was better not to install the HTF panel yet. It would have given me the space to put in the panel easier. But after a bit of fiddling around, I finally installed it and was ready to put on the top. Then came the right cabinet. It went through the same process and required the same patience, but it went in smoothly. In the corner, the two oat-colored tops simply butt together. I didn't do any fancy miter, it's just a clean joint held tight with metal plates underneath. It's strong enough to support everything and perfectly in line with what this project is about. Simple, practical solutions that work. I actually forgot to film that part. It's one of those moments when you're too focused on the fit to think about the camera. The waterfall edge on the left side ties the whole design together. It hides the corner seam and it gives the desk that solid look. Even though it's melamine, it feels built in like it was always meant to be there. When I stepped back, it finally felt like the room was complete. That temporary corner we'd used for 3 years finally had a real place to work. It's funny, I've built tables that took weeks and cost thousands, and somehow this simple melamine desk feels just as satisfying. No exotic woods, no epoxy, no stress, but you'll see more of these soon. Christmas is around the corner and I really need to finish this project, otherwise I'll probably be spending the holidays in the doghouse. That's what I've learned from working with melamine lately. It's not about showing off joinery or chasing perfection. It's about making something that fits, something that works, something that you actually use every day. So yes, it's just melamine, but also the design, intention, and finally getting rid of temporary. That's more than enough. If you like this one, hit the like button. It really helps more than you think. Subscribe if you haven't yet, because the next few projects are going to be bigger. Real furniture pieces. I'm working on 3 builds right now that I've never made before, and I can't wait to show you how they turn out. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.